As a highly respected academic leader and professor of New Testament at Acadia Divinity College, Dr. Evans has a tremendous depth of understanding that we've been tapping into this week. Dr. Evans, thank you once again.
Good to be here, Ron.
Now, Good Friday, of course, central part of Good Friday is the crucifixion of Jesus, his trial and crucifixion. And so here he is before this governor, this leader, Pontius Pilate. And let me just read a few verses here, and then let's unpack it a little bit. So in Matthew 27, starting at verse 22, Pilate said to them, "What then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They all said to him, "Let him be crucified." Then the governor said, "Why, what evil has he done?" But they cried out all the more, saying, "Let him be crucified." When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that a tumult was arising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this just person." So explain the conflict here in Pilate's mind as he brings Jesus out before this crowd.
Well, Pilate does have a dilemma on his hands. He doesn't want to cause a riot. Just like the ruling priests, he wants to maintain law and order also. So it's not that he's compassionate or that he's committed to justice or anything like that. I mean, Pilate, by today's standards, would be an appalling ruler. He's a man of expedience. He wants to do what simply solves the problem. And if it's killing Jesus, fine. If it's releasing Jesus, fine. So that's his dilemma. So there's no real, he's not a candidate for a Nobel Peace Prize. He wants to know, what do I need to do right here? I don't want to get blamed. He understands the dynamics at work. The ruling priests have been embarrassed by Jesus. He knows the ruling priests are unpopular with most of the population in Jerusalem, probably with everybody in Galilee. He knows that. He really wishes Jesus would simply go away. So what he does, I think, is very clever. He forces the crowd to make the decision. That's why he washes his hands of it, which is a saying to this day. He is saying, look, the decision has been taken out of my hands. I'm willing to release this popular preacher, and people say even healer. I'm willing to do that, but you need to make the call. And just before the passage that you read, you know, he let them make a decision. Do you want to, this guy released? I let somebody go from prison every year. It's called the Passover Pardon. His name is Barabbas. Would you like him? Or how about Jesus? Which one? And so you end up with an interesting situation. You have the ruling priests and their supporters calling for the death of Jesus. You have Barabbas's friends and supporters calling for Barabbas's release. And they end up forming a coalition. They drowned out whoever among the disciples there might have been who would have called for Jesus to be released. And so you get this strange mixture of crowd. You've got ruling priests, elite, calling for the release of Barabbas, and then, of course, all of them calling for the death of Jesus. And so Pilate, that gives him a way out. Not because he's a good guy, he's no saint. It gives him the way out. So if there's anything negative that comes out of this, Rome isn't going to be blamed. Another example of Roman brutality. No. It was a Jewish decision. That's what he wants to say. Now, I hasten to add, this does not mean all of the Jewish people made this decision, because they did not. Yeah,
it was still early morning there, and probably, you know, the priests had kind of handpicked the people. Come on, you need to be here at a certain time because we need to make sure Jesus gets crucified.
Oh, you're absolutely right. This is a handpicked crowd, and as I said, it's handpicked by the ruling priests, and then there's the family friends, supporters of Barabbas himself. So if they form this odd coalition and call for Barabbas's release and Jesus's death. But as I said, most Jewish people in Israel, and of course Jewish people outside the land of Israel, they didn't even know what was going on. And it's terribly wrong to say that this is somehow the doings of the Jewish people as a whole, or that they're to be blamed for this. That's bad theology, and it's bad history.
And of course, then Jesus is beaten, whipped, he's led out to the hill to be crucified, and And crucifixion was the common form of execution at that time.
It was for any serious charge, and if you're not an elite person, if you're a Roman citizen, you usually could avoid it. But for someone like Jesus, who was seen as threatening the stability, the law and order, he was subject to a very, very painful death, and that was crucifixion. And of course, it was supposed to be a deterrent. The person is tortured, humiliated, and then there he hangs publicly bleeding until he dies. And Rome is sending a message to everybody: don't think about any kind of sedition or rebellion. Don't think about changing the status quo, because if you do, this is what will happen to you.
And of course, Jesus is sending the ultimate message of love to everyone through this sacrifice of himself. And there's so much that we could talk about when we talk about the crucifixion here on Good Friday. But thank you for sharing that. Monday, we want you to come back because, of course, on Sunday we'll be celebrating the resurrection. And we want to talk about that very central core tenet of the faith, the resurrection of Jesus, on Monday. Thanks so much, Dr. Evans.
Thank you.